it's almost like we're not law enforcement anymore. We respond to heroin all day long.
This is Montgomery County, Ohio, now also known as the overdose capital of America. And shortly into a drive-along with Deputy Teague, I began to understand why.
We just arrived on scene. They got a call about an overdose. We're in Dayton on the east side, which he said is basically ground zero for this stuff.
This is already the fourth overdose call today for the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. Police were able to treat and save this man's life.
Yeah, you see where he blew out his vein.
His blood all over his hands.
He's got blood everywhere on him. So.
It's a shocking sight, a drug overdose in a public parking lot. But for Deputy Teague, it's a familiar scene.
That was shocking to me, but for you, I mean...
Yeah, that's an everyday run-of-the-mill.
Wow.
Same old.
Trying to save lives by stopping overdoses, mostly from opioids.
Opioids are basically a class of drug that bind to any one of 3 opioid receptors in your brain and body. And so opioids generally are analgesic, meaning that they relieve pain. So there's prescription opioids like OxyContin, hydrocodone, Percocets, Vicodin, but heroin is also an opioid.
The misuse and addiction to opioids is an epidemic sweeping the country, and drug overdoses are now the leading cause of accidental death in the U.S., killing more than car crashes, guns, and even the AIDS virus. In 2016, almost 64,000 Americans died from a drug overdose. 2/3 of those were related to opioids.
Do you think this is the worst drug crisis in America?
It absolutely is.
This community here was low income, white, some mental health issues, but in the last 2 years, I know it's been just excessively attacked with heroin.
Can you explain to me what this opioid crisis is, especially here in Montgomery County?
Yeah, well, we started off with having a pill problem. I think people are suffering from unemployment or underemployment. You know, this should be our strong, working, middle-class citizen. But, you know, they're depressed and they're self-medicating with heroin and fentanyl.
It started with abusing prescription opioids, which turned into heroin use, an illegal and more potent form of opioids, and then to a much stronger synthetic substance like fentanyl and even carfentanil.
Just a touch, just a few grains of it can kill you.
Sheriff Plummer says these new drugs are causing the number of overdoses to continue to rise.
How many overdoses are we talking per day?
Talking about 13 per day. It just keeps getting worse and worse. That's the sad thing. When's it going to stop, you know?
But the crisis continues to grow all across the country. And in October, President Trump officially declared the opioid epidemic a national public health emergency.
We owe it to our children and to our country to do everything in our power to address this national shame and this human tragedy.
There's really not a heroin problem here, it's fentanyl.
Here on the front lines, law enforcement continues to fight around the clock.
How has your line of work now changed because of all of this?
You know, our jobs got very difficult now. It's increased tremendously. We've almost become service providers. We have to continue to fight for these people for another day to get them into treatment, to get them fixed.
Making sure all officers are trained and stocked with naloxone, also known as Narcan.
Yep, this is the miracle drug, and unfortunately we're using a lot of it.
A drug that can reverse an overdose.
Almost every department in our county uses it. You know, we're saving lives.
But keeping up with the demand is becoming more and more difficult.
This dose would maybe cure a heroin overdose?
Yeah.
1 or 2?
Yeah.
What about for fentanyl?
This may hit fentanyl, but you know, it depends on what you get. If you get a whole gel cap of fentanyl, it probably won't combat it. You're going to use several of these.
So that shows just how much stronger fentanyl or carfentanil can be.
Yeah.
What's the most?
46.
46.
46 of these on one person.
A tough fight, but a battle Montgomery County isn't giving up on.
People don't understand it's a disease. It's very, very addicting. So don't try it the first time, because the first time Could be your last time. So we got to come out of the shadows, and we got to accept the problem, and we got to fix the problem.
Emily Reppert, Channel 1 News.